We're a quarter way through the NBA season, and I feel like the Golden State Warriors have experienced the ups and downs of an entire season in just this small sample size. There was a play during the Warriors' first NBA Cup game against the Dallas Mavericks, Klay Thompson's famed return, where Kyrie Irving's trying to dribble against De'Anthony Melton. Draymond Green starts shading over towards him, helping off the corner, and it just seemed unbeatable. You've got one of the best point of attack defenders with one of the best help defenders helping him out. It was incredible. At the time, the Warriors were just about to bring their record up to 9-2, and it looks like they were on top of the world. Fast forward to today, the Warriors endured a 5-game skid, and there are questions abound as they keep falling down the Western Conference. With such high hopes after a hot start, are the Warriors just going through a slump, or is their season seriously in trouble? To start, let's talk about Steph Curry, the engine that powers the Golden State Warriors. This season, Curry is averaging 22.6 points a night with 6.6 assists and 5.6 rebounds on 46, 42, 95 shooting splits. It's absolutely incredible. And he's averaging all this in just a hair over 30 minutes a night, which 30 minutes would be his lowest since the 2011-2012 season. He has his lowest usage percentage since the 2016-17 season at 30.2%, and he's scoring an elite 127.6 points per shot attempt according to Cleaning the Glass. Among guards with a minimum 400 minutes this season, only Peyton Pritchard and strangely Keon Ellis are above him in that figure. When he's on the court, Golden State is a plus 18.6 points per possession on offense and only giving up 3.9 more points on defense, giving him an elite plus 14.6 point differential, again per Cleaning the Glass. Now, I won't go through every stat, but take my word for it. When he's out there, the team is taking more efficient shots, being shots at the rim or threes, and they're making them all at an elite level. Also, it just passes the eye test. We know what a healthy Steph Curry does to juiced offenses, and this season so far, it looks like Steph Curry is at that level that we know that he can be. For all intents and purposes, he's still the straw that stirs the drink for Golden State. But why have they lost 5 straight in a row, and why does it look so hopeless? This season, Golden State is famously playing one of the deepest rotations in NBA history. Steve Kerr decided that he couldn't whittle down the rotation in training camp and decided to enter the season playing as many players as he likes on any given night. For what it's worth, it's actually a trendy thing to do in the NBA this season. The second apron and new tax rules are hurting teams' abilities to assemble undeniable top-end talent, and unless the owner is willing to spend a Phoenix Suns amount of tax for the superstars, the new meta is just to spread the love down the roster, and for the Warriors, the depth was working early on in the quarter of the season. Brandin Podzemski and Jonathan Kuminga, 2 key rotation pieces, were struggling in the early part of the season, but it just did not matter. De'Anthony Melton, as we know, is an elite point of attack defender, and he was hitting 37% of his threes, and Buddy Hield was shooting exceptionally well even for his standards. Even Lindy Waters, the famed hall pass himself, cracked open a 21-burger for a night against, well actually, now that we're looking back on it, it was a 21-point game against an extremely injured New Orleans Pelicans team. But I think that gets into the issue that when De'Anthony Melton went down, I'll admit, I was sad, but I went into my nearest basketball group chat and said, hey, look, there are 3 worthy replacements on the roster, being Brandin Podzemski, Moses Moody, and Lindy Waters. And now the Golden State Warriors have the ability to trade De'Anthony Melton's mid-level salary for something at the deadline. And I wrote about potential trades on thedeep2.com, which a link can be found in this video's description. I would love it if you read that article. But it's obvious now that Lindy Waters wasn't the answer. He's now moved to the bench, and it looks like he'll stay there for the rest of the season. Steve Kerr, as Warriors fans know, is absolutely allergic to giving Moses Moody a major opportunity. That doesn't even mean starting him, that just means trusting him with a lot of minutes. And Brandin Podzemski, who the team is tapping on the shoulder as the starting 2-guard moving forwards, well, somewhat because they're heavily invested in his future, is shooting a horrible 39% from the floor and 21% from 3. He hit a 3 the other day and then thanked the heavens, and the Warriors commentators said, it looks like he's finally broken the drought, but that is not the case whatsoever. The depth is going to get tested even further as Draymond, who didn't play in the loss against the Nuggets, said in his podcast that he's afraid of his current calf injury. He compared the calf injury to a similar one that he had in 2022 that sidelined him for 3 months and actually threatened to sideline him for the rest of the season. Luckily it didn't, because he came back and the Golden State Warriors won the title that season. But Draymond is indispensable to any basketball team, but this season more than ever, because Golden State has been playing a defensive negative in Trayce Jackson-Davis as center, and Draymond's acumen has papered over TJD's weaknesses, giving Golden State the lob threat on the other end and just an elite finisher big man that they haven't really had in a very long time. Would have been nice if James Wiseman could do that. But without Draymond Green, Steve Kerr has had to start Kevon Looney, pushing TJD to the bench and elevating Jonathan Kuminga, who, man, the way things are going, Jonathan Kuminga might have missed out on a Dennis Schroeder level of bag. Through some reports, it sounds like the Golden State Warriors offered a 5 for $150 million deal this past offseason, and apparently Jonathan Kuminga wasn't going to consider anything under $175 million total. And wow, I struggle to see which teams are out there this offseason who are going to give him $175 million. But I'm getting sidetracked. So how can the Golden State Warriors turn this around? Jake Fisher from Bleacher Report noted that the Warriors will be looking to trade Melton after his unfortunate injury, and I guess the first step is shutting your eyes, putting your fingers in your ears and screaming la 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 until December 15th when he can be traded. But if the Warriors can turn Melton into maybe a healthy veteran like the aforementioned Dennis Schroeder, who actually might be playing too well to get traded for just an expiring salary, but maybe the Warriors can turn Melton and a pick into just someone who can play basketball. Regardless, Steph Curry's 36 years old, and it looks like he's going to miss the odd game due to rest, just like he did last week against the Thunder. But when he's on the court, Golden State is an elite offense. Draymond Green, surrounded by defensive pieces, can just figure out the defense and put things in order. But assuming Draymond's going to miss at least a few weeks, the young players just simply have to play better. After the Draymond injury, Jonathan Kuminga will be the starting power forward, and he seemingly has to play next to the negative spacer in Kevon Looney just because the Warriors need a defensive big out there. A front court of Jonathan Kuminga and TJD will stop nobody and is just not an option. So Jonathan Kuminga needs to turn into the go-to second option that the team, his agent, and in all honesty, his future bank balance needs him to be. On the Deep to NBA podcast, I always point to March Kuminga as one of the best basketball players in the world. Like, I put him on the same tier as like random off-season video Ben Simmons where he's shooting threes. Like March or just late season Kuminga is like a mythical being or Bigfoot. He gets talked about a lot, but like when you really try and watch it, you don't see much of him. You have to sort of be there in the moment. You have to see it when it happens, and then you look like a crazy person turning around saying, oh man, like I just watched an incredible Jonathan Kuminga game in January 22, and then you look at the box score and it was just a really efficient 19 points. But it's there. The flashes have been there. We're in year 4 of the Jonathan Kuminga experience. He hits a couple of threes, it opens up the rest of his game, and those late season stretches, honestly, I talk about them being rare, but he's an athletic finisher surrounded by shooters. It's like a podcaster's wet dream. He has to do that for a sustained period now, and the one thing about JK is that in my years of watching him, he seriously has the confidence to jack up the shots. Sometimes, most of the time, it's infuriating, but he's going to throw the shots up there. He's going to get shots up. We know that Andrew Wiggins is drinking the Tobias Harris Kool-Aid, where no matter what's going on around him, whether everyone else is injured or whether everyone else is healthy, he's going to be the third or fourth option. He hasn't shown the ability to elevate up into a higher option, which is fine. That's, you're paying him to be a 3-and-D role player and he's doing it. It would be nice if he could score the odd 30-point game, but we don't see that very often. But Jonathan Kuminga is going to get the shots up, and if it falls, something good might happen. On the other side, Brandin Podzemski, I think Steve Curry is making the wrong decision here. I think it's fine playing Steph Curry next to a ball handler like Brandin Podzemski. We obviously saw once Klay Thompson was getting benched last season, we saw that it worked out well. Brandin was hitting his shots, him and Curry were sharing the ball handling duties, but it's going to be a lot harder for Steph Curry to find those off-ball shots when Draymond Green isn't operating at the top of the three-point line. And Steve Kerr has to get shooters out there, even at the expense of playmaking, which I think he puts too high a value on. And I think this is going to really hurt his soul, but he has to trust Moses Moody. This season, Moody Moses is shooting 38% from 3 on 3.7 three-point attempts, which are both career highs, but his per 36 numbers look even better. They look incredible because he's playing a paltry 16 minutes a night. Like it makes me sick. I reckon the Moodies must have cursed the Kerrs in a past life, but whatever happened, whether you're burning sage or Garlic, I don't know too much about curses, but they need to get over it, because if the Warriors are going to withstand Draymond's absence, it has to be because Jonathan Kuminga stepped up, not in the same defensive level, but it has to be undeniable on offense. And for Jonathan Kuminga to flourish on offense, he needs to be surrounded by shooters. Kevon Looney has to be out there for defense, and you can maybe use Kevon Looney at the top of the three-point line like Draymond Green to initiate the off-ball screens. You've got Curry, obviously a good three-point shooter. Buddy Hield, good three-point shooter. Moses Moody turning into a, let's say, great three-point shooter if he can keep this up. Those guys are out there, and then have Jonathan Kuminga flourish in the space, work along the baseline. It won't be perfect, but it's the best opportunity. You have to open up the game for Kuminga, and Golden State just can't afford to have more teething issues with Brandin Podzemski. But sadly, as I conclude, it might all be for naught, because entering this season, I just can't forget how Curry fell off in the second half of last year. After the All-Star break, he was averaging 5 fewer points per game. His shooting percentages dropped across the board. His three-point percentage went down from 42 to 38%. His field goal percentage dropped from 46 to 42. And if Steph Curry just doesn't have that same longevity as he once did, it doesn't matter how well Jonathan Kuminga plays or how well you set things up for him and Pods. If the season ended today, Steph Curry is in the All-NBA discussion. And if Steph Curry is in the All-NBA discussion, you can probably make a run at a title, which is what the Warriors want to do. He's at that level right now. But despite being at that level, which, I mentioned the late season slump last year. I mentioned that because he might not be there at the end of the season, but he's there now. And despite that, the team has already fallen into a slump 20 games into the season. And if Steph's window does close, if Steph's window as the go-to guy on a title contender closes, then the Warriors' famous second window that is apparently supposed to be open right now because of the aforementioned young players, that is also going to close as well. Thank you very much for listening to this episode of The Fill Room. If you enjoyed what you saw, there's plenty more content where that came from. We've got multiple podcasts coming out a week, wherever you get your podcasts. We've got articles going up on our website, thedeep2.com, and follow us on socials. Stay in touch. Check out our Instagram, @thedeep2, also on Twitter, on Facebook, etc., etc. And see you then. I think that's it. So thank you for watching again. If you have any feedback, good, bad, or indifferent, more than happy to have a listen. Our contact details are going to be in the episode description, also on the socials, which you should follow. And make it a great day.